Let us envision a world where all differences are set aside. Strong men and strong women unite to create a presence transcending any shade of tone, creed, or denomination. Together, they forge a vibrant congregation of the human race. Each individual contributes their unique story, weaving a complex tapestry that connects distant cultures and traditions, celebrating the beauty of our collective humanity as it spans the globe. This diverse gathering fosters understanding and respect, enriching our shared journey toward a better future for all.
False prophets and installed leaders. How much of it are they to blame for influencing our generation into cuffs and chains? Has the Klan turned in their cloaks and hoods for gowns and gavels? Have they pulled the wool over our eyes, subconsciously putting on their hood? Are we sending our youth to protect our beliefs and principles? Or is it influenced by economic interests? Is the enemy these foreign boogeymans? Or are we filling the rich man's pockets at the expense of the lives of family and friends?
We've gone from songs of freedom and change to ones of gangs and rhymes, of committing self-inflicted genocide. Shifting from overt displays of prejudice to more subtle forms of systemic inequality. They have done away with slaves working in the fields in exchange for commercializing football jersey prison sentences and state-issued numbers. We have become complicit in a system that undermines our collective well-being. It's worth reflecting on whether we are merely victims of circumstance or if we bear some responsibility for our current situation.
The concept of freedom raises many questions. We would like to embark on the idea of the American dream, whether we are truly freed or if it's just a pipe dream fueled by greed, is the topic of this episode's conversation.
I want to let you in on a little secret. We are the American dream.
I second that motion. Now, whether it be the fever dream we are currently experiencing in society or an awakened dream is entirely upon us as a collective.
So you wanted to break down our videos to viewers to give a deeper insight into the meaning behind them?
Yes. So I was inspired to make this years ago, noticed where we were heading, and felt that society needed a wake-up call to be reminded of what is at stake. We made these videos to spread this message.
I think the viewers wanted to hear your wise words about the meaning behind the videos, your magnificence. You have an interesting spin on the term USA. I want to delve deeper into that.
We all have heard how the story goes. The man is trying to put us down and throw us in cages. In doing so, preventing us from a fair go at excelling towards the dream. They left us with the rags and none of the riches. They put in place laws to keep the people down, putting certain demographics of people under scrutiny. This helps fuel the industry of privatized prisons, enabling a slave-like workforce, ultimately monopolizing off those incarcerated. Some have found themselves caught up playing in a broken game at the cost of their freedom, which ultimately benefits the lawmakers and prison owners. They have the prisoners partaking in a carnival game with their lives, leaving those previously incarcerated with broken homes and at a disadvantage. These circumstances have been shown to affect these groups for generations. As a people, do we bear responsibility for our government possibly undermining foreign nations and implementing propped-up leaders to fulfill their agenda? At what point is it us protecting our sovereignty and guarding our patriotism? When do we draw the line between us being patriots versus us being used as pawns? Do the price of these wars equal the lives of future generations from these different nations? Understanding that the human race has spent a large amount of its time in wars, let's not pretend that we have been a peaceful species, but being where we are now in time and having access to the abundance of information and technology that we have today leaves me to wonder if we can actually accomplish world peace, or at the very least, a higher level of diplomacy amongst all nations without one another. Systemic racism. To deny it is like denying pedos don't exist. All the DEIs, critical race theories, etc., etc. What if the constant reminder of us being unfairly marginalized is actually holding us back rather than empowering us, stripping minorities of their power, as if we are waiting for their go-ahead into white America? It feels like a condescending apology, as if saying, "Sorry, we wronged you," is nothing more than a consolation prize, met with an applause born out of pity and political correctness. For us to look at these white liberals as our saviors. Forget about adopting these so-called inclusionary policies and principles. With the rise of the internet, we all have access to a level playing field. But who's worse? The false allies? Those inadvertently inclusionary types who only see different ethnic groups as untapped markets to exploit for profit? Or the overt rednecks, the so-called extremists who openly display their prejudice? These self-proclaimed altruistic liberals are far more insidious than those who are simply ignorant and closed-minded towards other cultures. I question the motives of those who claim to be culturally aware, but push us to view the white man as the enemy, fostering hatred towards them. Suppose I apply my suspicions and speculate further. Is the real agenda to create reverse racism, particularly against those on the right, blurring the lines of patriotic Americans and painting them as alt-right nationalists? These individuals, often seen as staunch defenders of traditional American values, leads me to believe there's a deliberate effort to weaken and overtake the United States. If these so-called extremists were eliminated, it could pave the way for an agenda aimed at undermining and dismantling the country's core ideals, potentially reducing the U.S. to the status of a third world nation. In today's world of social media, we are all chasing the illusion of individuality, clinging to the idea that we are so vastly different from one another. Due to the prevalence of social media nowadays, many people fall for the illusion of uniqueness and how we all differ from one another. Everyone is scratching for individuality, which leads to people falling into niche denominations within a subgroup. This is why today we see so much division among people. I wonder if this division is manufactured within think groups or if it's just human nature. Every group has faced challenges and has risen above them. Each group has contributed to building this country into what it is today. The idea that this isn't our country is ridiculous. People in the past have laid down their lives and livelihoods for this present reality to be possible. And for us to think that this is not our country is a spit in their faces. Dismissing this country as not ours is like saying all their pain, their struggle, and their sacrifices were meaningless. Instead of disrespecting our ancestors and forefathers, why don't we remix it? A better act of rebellion lies in claiming our stake as Americans, spitting in the faces of racists and bigots by embracing this country as ours. Yes, prejudice still exists today. It shows its faces in spaces where we're excluded, whether it be outright or subtly. But that doesn't mean we should forget where we belong. It is time to stop embracing the struggle as a large part of our identity. We should look at the struggle not as a burden to carry, but rather as a stepping stone to motivate us forward. We've all been subjected to oppression in some form by the man, colonized, exploited, marginalized, etc. Yet instead of fixating on who had it worse, we should channel that shared history into fuel for something greater. Let's honor the past, own our present, and shape the future. The remnants of systemic racism persist in the subconscious minds of minorities. It also is deeply rooted in their diet. Each one of these minority groups shares common struggles with their health, suffering from shared issues such as diabetes and high blood pressure, health issues tied to the adoption of a slave diet, At one point in time, we weren't even allowed to enjoy simple pleasures such as steak. We were relegated to eating scraps like pig feet, crispy pata, patas de pollo, chitlins, isa, and tripas. Our ancestors fought for us to be able to enjoy even just a slice of this American pie. Back then, they couldn't even get a crumb, yet they clawed for every extra cent to gain traction in the race toward the American dream.
They stripped us of our gods and forced us to bow to theirs, gods made in their image, constructing the white savior complex. In doing so, they severed our connection to our source of higher power, erased our relationship with our higher selves, and made us forget our ways. Over time, this led us to internalize the belief that we were inferior and subservient to the colonizers. Then, they came after families, making sure to take the patriarchy out of the family unit by killing or maiming the men that could defend. Inebriation became a tool to render the men meek, followed by the promotion of indulging in cheap entertainment and distractions, such as gambling. These tactics weakened family units and eroded the sanctity of relationships between men and women, ultimately creating a docile workforce to fuel the greed of the oppressors. Women become detached from childbirth, fully aware of the harsh reality awaiting their children. This stripped women of their divinity. The sanctity of bringing life into the world fades as these children are reduced to mere cogs in the workforce. This dynamic breeds a population increasingly devoid of humanity. In time, this bred a people yearning for autonomy, validation, and purpose, emulating Eurocentric standards and detaching from their authentic selves. Deeming natural features as inferior, perpetuating the cycle of self-erasure. This mindset is still prevalent today in many melanated cultures, where colorism continues to thrive. Adoption of these ideals was and still is perceived as a way to climb the social ladder and gain acceptance within these dominant groups. This struggle hasn't disappeared, it's just evolved. Aspects of this is happening to this day. We all take pride in how we look. Everyone has an innate desire to get fly without truly understanding why. Rooted in our subconscious is to gain acceptance in mirroring our colonizers and distancing ourselves from anything that reminds us of our indigenous roots of the past. We chase external validation through material goods, seeking recognition, respect, and status, particularly status defined by Eurocentric ideals.
It is by design that we are socially engineered to be pitted against one another in a race for superficial markers of success. I suspect these same systemic influences led us to adopt the allure of being lit, having us occupied by distractions and partaking in escapism while keeping us stuck in a cycle that holds us back. We are currently in fear of encroaching on World War III, but what's to say that's just a distraction from the true war, which is the battle for our minds. Those responsible for the social engineering have popularized the culture of death and destruction. The ones that have a hand in shaping society are aware of this. That is why we are bombarded by ads and superficial matters. In media, entertainment, and music, we romanticize and congratulate YNs, but we are not trying to foster any YLs. To be in denial of that makes you wonder, then why do we got so many white kids trying to sound hood? And why do we have these suburban trying to sell? You got these white wanting to be ratchet, all the while their parents are classist. We have these geeks trying to be goons, while allowing these same types of individuals to establish a foothold within the culture. We should no longer allow individuals with the likes of DJ Am3rican and DJ and anybody else that is to fit that mold to have a platform to only sow and propagate drama and degeneracy. Those of influence today should push the youth towards principles, ethics, and morale. That should be the new influencer. It is divine timing to be living in this current time. The amount of truth and knowledge is unprecedented when the overall populace carries the power of information in their hands.
The mission of this project is to bring the dark past to light, to enlighten for a new tomorrow. It's time for us, as a society, to adopt this new America. For this to be accomplished, it starts with our mentality. We must act more like a family. A strong culture is built on strong ideals as practiced within a family. We have to do better in our relations with the opposite sex. Build a stronger family unit to then construct a stable home. To see where we have come from as a society concerning men and women is sad. We can't build a harmonious future without respect and compassion towards one another. The union between a strong woman and a strong man creates a fortified youth. A fortified youth creates a bright future. The land has become so barren, it is as if we have turned Earth into Mars, so alienated from nature and ourselves, becoming inorganic in the process. Looking for the newest upgrade, we traded in our flesh for microchips and plastic. We try to buy our happiness and fill our hearts with possessions in an attempt to fill that void. We now look at one another as commodities, which goes against our nature, unhuman. Now, society lives in two different worlds, those consumed by the algorithm and those in rhythm with nature. Back to the source, we reconnect by love, the bridger of gaps. We must love ourselves before we can love one another, and before we are able to share that love with others. Loneliness is at an all-time high, and I suspect that is by design. It works in their favor for all of us to be toxic to one another, whether it be towards the opposing sex, belief, ethnicity, or nationality. It leads people to live inside a bubble, an augmented version of reality, void and detached from the reality that could be created. We must learn how to share with one another instead of snipping and shearing at each other. We can usher in the dawn of a new era, which I could see being very American, facilitating a culture based on love, creation, and positivity.
We would like to encourage you to take this invitation to rally this campaign. Let us create this change. If we are able to create this culture in America, this will be something that will be looked back on in history books. Until then, the concept of freedom raises many questions. Ultimately, we have the power to either liberate ourselves or bear responsibility for enslaving ourselves. A shift is needed. As a people, we need to collectively raise our consciousness and elevate culturally together.